All right, welcome back to another episode of the Hoboken Real Estate Advisor Podcast. I'm Jeff Bonk. I got my sidekicks, Christian Gonzalez and Mark Staley, on the call with me. Mark soaking up the last days of summer as it's August 20th here, and he's doing a little work-play balance. We love that about life, right? And be able to really lean in and enjoy that. So how you guys doing today, boys?
Mark, you go
Fantastic. Yeah.
first.
Yeah. I mean, I'm here at Point Pleasant Beach on the boardwalk. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. We get to live, work, and play simultaneously.
I love it. I love it. That's
Yeah,
exciting. How you doing, Christian?
just here in Hoboken, it's quieter because it's the end of summer, so everybody's getting their last vacations in, but all's good.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, the boys are counting down days till school starts, and that's the energy in the air these days. But we're here to talk about how that applies and like relates to the real estate market. So I'd love to talk a little bit leading off, guys. What are we seeing in the market? Kind of what we start with every time. It's late August. It's typically a slower time of year. We're from a global perspective in New Jersey, we're seeing certain pockets and markets really slow down on the listing side and listing sits and price reductions. But then on the other side, we're seeing multiple offers on other properties and segments of the market. So there's not one clean swipe of the brush to really say um, whole market's moving one way or the other, as it always is. So I'd like to hear, we can walk around the room real quick and just see, like, what are you seeing? What are you feeling? What are you hearing from buyers and sellers sentiment? What are you seeing actually, like, tangibly when you go to show a property or list a property or any listings you have right now? What's the overall vibes that we're getting and expecting kind of going into fourth quarter?
Yeah, Mark, if you don't mind, I'll lead off.
Go
But
for it.
yeah, I think on the high level, there's a lot of, let's say, like tension, and there's a little bit of anxiety in the market because there's a lot of big things going on. With, for example, the Treasury just announced that they were buying back bonds, which impacted the let's say the stock market and the overall like macro. So there's like this tension kind of going on where we know that stocks and bond and sorry stocks and homes are not directly correlated, but everybody's always looking at their retirement, everybody's always looking at their brokerage, and it kind of gives you a sense on your pulse. And there's a little bit of like, let's say, this anxiousness that a drop may be coming. So people are a little bit reluctant when it comes to like how liquid they feel, and you just feel like budget friendly. You feel like budget sensitive individuals are kind of conscious of what's going on, and with rates kind of continuing to hang in the high sixes, it just feels a little uncomfortable. So yeah, I mean, I would say people are being precautious.
I agree, and I think the mixture of the summer vacations and end of summer and the inconsistency of messaging too, where rates are up the last 48 hours since the Fed announced they'd buy back some bonds, which is not what you would expect. So it's a little bit of mixed messaging, and I think anytime there's like confusion or things are unclear, it does cause people to put some brakes on. And I expect the next week or two to be a little slower in the purchase side because of that versus and the end of August in Jersey seasonally is usually pretty slow. That said, the beginning of August, as an organization, as a team, we had a big month. Like our pendings are up. There's still a lot of transactions happening. We listed a studio, did a studio a week and a half ago. We only had 4 showings, but we got 4 offers, and we went over asking. So like that's it's this very like, thread the needle thin line market right now where you have to really be tuned in and dynamic and ready to adjust to different flows of activity. So, Mark, what are you seeing on your side, brother?
Yeah, I'll get a little more micro economic where we have a smaller sample size of data right now because of the summer season, less inventory changing hands. And so what we get to see is what's moving and what's not. And an example is the single family home market here in Hoboken, where we had 3 big closings last week. 2 of them traded almost 10% below market. Townhouses that were priced around 3 to 3.5, trading 10% below that. And then you had one that traded to like 6% above ask, and that was the only one that was turnkey in nature. It was the only one where the sellers had already done all the work, and the buyers could just move in and raise their kids. And so I think that's been very present in this current marketplace is something turnkey in nature will trade right away. Something that needs work It'll take some time and you can get a good deal.
Hmm. That's an interesting perspective shift because I think a few months ago that was everything was going, no matter what it was, and there was just such limited inventory. A couple extra options for people slows people down a little bit and adds some more choice and more negotiation power from the buyer side. And that's interesting. So seeing what happens going into the fall because we're starting. You know, let's all actually share a little bit. We have a decent pipeline. Red and I's book has a decent pipeline of listings coming up. Nothing dramatic, but definitely a couple that are already on the horizon for the fall. But at the same time, like there's buyers popping their heads back out on the other side. So I definitely think there's people that are ready to transact. A lot of like let's connect after Labor Day type of conversations. You guys have that pipeline as well? Do you have a couple listings like that are getting ready for the fall, and a couple buyers that are just like, let me just get through the next few weeks, or is it a little quiet or a little busier than expected?
I'd say dialogue is starting to pick back up. It was a bit slow for like let's say the past 4 weeks, but that's expected. That's the seasonality of the industry, and there's nothing really wrong there. Now, when it comes to, let's say, the tension I was mentioning previously and coming back to market and all that, with people coming back to working in school and all that, but there's more activity coming. I feel like this fall will be fine. I think there will be transactions. Um, it's just people are kind of getting, I hate to say it, filtered out. Like it's just if you're on the edge on whether or not you want to buy, people are just reluctant. They don't trust it. They don't want to lean in, unfortunately, with those first time home buyers. But maybe more of the seasoned group, like the families and whatnot, that have an objective. They have to move. They have something to accomplish. They're going.
Definitely. And I think that can lead us segue us perfectly right into the next topic we wanted to hit on is talking a little bit about the options in town from purchasing versus renting. And Mark, I know you work with a lot of landlords, which then puts a lot of rental leads and people looking to rent those units into your pipeline. And one thing that you've been very good at is being very purposeful with those conversations, helping people really find clarity of what makes the most sense for them. And sometimes people just don't have all the quite right questions to ask themselves, even to figure out what is my move. And the market has to do with that too, right? The market sometimes it's a no brainer to purchase because where rates are and prices are, and sometimes there's a gap to close to make sense of purchasing based on the market, based on people personal uh, situations. So talk to us a little bit. Let's segue into like that renting versus purchasing conversation. A new lead comes into you looking to rent a $5,000 apartment. What kind of conversation you having with them to make sure they have the proper clarity to make the right decision? I know that's something you excel in.
Absolutely. I love the word clarity in our organization here at the Align team. Without clarity, then taking that next step is virtually impossible. And the best way to get clarity is by doing the work. And as it pertains to a renter, it's actually exploring the idea of buying, and it's actually amazingly enough, the ecosystem is designed where the only skin in the game to get the clarity you're looking for is your time and effort. It's there's no money that's necessary to find a financial professional, a lender to help guide you on that path, and to find a real estate professional that can give you the guidance necessary to understand what that path is like. I mean, these resources are free to you. We get paid by commission at the end of the transaction. So it's reaching out and understanding what buying looks like before you sign that lease, re-up that lease again, move into the new place. You might as well have that clarity and then you make a really calculated decision.
Absolutely, I agree with that. Slowing down to speed up, right? Slowing down to make sure you make the right decision, I think, is very important. And one thing I see from a real estate agent perspective far too often is being transactionally based and not caring or knowing that they should go deep and ask those questions. Where we assume, I think, a lot that people already have done their homework, have considered all their options, have vetted out all the resources that they need and people they need to talk to come to a well thought out decision. And a few key questions, a few key conversations can really do a huge benefit for a person in the market and who's just getting their feet wet and not making assumptions that they've already kind of came to a really thoughtful solution. People are just busy and they don't know what they don't know. And I think we assume people are more kind of organized with those thoughts than possible. And it's nothing. It's just what we do full time, right? So we have that perspective. And when I'm buying a car, like I don't have that perspective of different options. I go to a professional. I hire last when I just bought my last car, hired a consultant to navigate the auto sales industry. Like, should I lease? Should I buy pre-owned, brand new? Like, what are my goals? What are my objectives? And that person was very valuable to help me through that. So I think taking that approach with people is something that's lacking in this industry, unfortunately, and something I'm really happy that our group does, and make sure that we take a holistic approach to it. Christian, on the numbers side, this is something I've been talking about for a couple of years now, and I think you're dialed in on this too. I've been telling more people to rent than I ever have in the last couple of years because the interest rate and the purchase price like environment
Trade-off.
trade off. So if that gap, like let's just take like a one bedroom in Hoboken somewhere, like the same place you can buy or rent the same product. At one point, it was almost parity, where it'd be $4,000 a month to rent it, and it'd be $4,000 a month to carry that place. And of course, you have a down payment, but you get benefits from the other side of tax write-offs, appreciation, principal pay down. Now that gap's bigger. Like it depends on what product you're looking at. The spread gets wider or narrower, but it could be like 4,000 to rent and 6,000 to purchase that property, or it could be 5,000, 6,000, or like let's use the Hudson T 2 bedrooms, 7,000 to rent it, or your carry on that's like 10, 11. So where do you see that gap? Like how big is too big from like a financial standpoint, and where do you think timeline of how long you plan to be in that property comes into like what are all the pieces that you would consider and try to like help someone work through from a strictly financial side of things?
It's a very fair point because the analogy is if I was to rent and my monthly payment was less than my mortgage and I took that difference would have to be invested into, let's say, like stocks and whatnot, and that would have to outgrow the pace of the home on, I hate to say it, but like on a leverage basis because you
Yeah.
put 20% down for a 100% purchase. So the trade off that you need to consider is really not so much in the dollar value to me. It's more of the way I like to paint the picture is there's a massive cruise ship going up the river and it's going very slow, but it's getting bigger. And if you don't grab on, it might take off without you. And what I mean by that is home ownership is getting harder and harder and every single year it's getting a little bit harder for every family, every first time home buyer, whatever. And we need income, we need savings, we need our other investments to grow to compensate for that potential trade-off, right? So when it comes to an actual number, I don't necessarily have one, but I would say the larger the home purchase, the more challenging the question is. Like the $3 million
Yep.
sale you were talking about, Mark, like that's hard for a family. Like those are probably very, very well off people where it's just they have the means to do it and it's not going to impact their long-term trajectory forever. But some people, these are very, very meaningful decisions on what they should do. So the younger you are, and let's say the smaller the home price on the transaction side, the more appropriate it is to buy.
Mm-hmm.
As we get further and further, that stretch does become a question you need to analyze, and you have to understand whether or not it's better to buy or to rent.
I agree. I think there's one core question to start from, and it's like, how long do you want to own this property? Because
That's exactly right.
as you,
That's I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's
yep.
exactly the point. Is that the old saying was that you had to stay in a home for at least 5 years for the transaction costs and whatnot and the appreciation to make up for what you've invested in it. And now that's probably closer to 7. And
Agreed.
it's probably trending to 10.
Yep, agreed. And it's also a big question I have a caveat in that question is you don't have to live there, but do you want to own it? Do you want to purposefully be a landlord after 3 years, 5 years, whatever that is? Because like, let's say it's 7 years is that real break even point for a sector someone's looking to buy because the spread's $3,000 or $2,000 different. Like that becomes way more financially advantageous the longer you're going to own it. So you can rent it. Like, do you have the stomach? Do you want to be a landlord? Do you need this down payment to go buy the next home in 3 years, or are you okay leaving the property and letting it accrue?
Yeah, and another risk that a lot of people don't they don't recognize is that if you rent, and if you rent in perpetuity forever, you're exposing yourself in a few different ways, and one of them is that you're not in control of your overhead. So, for as an example, I have friends that they've been renting for years. They have a great spot. The rent is reasonable. The house was just sold. Rent just went up like 50%, and they
Yep.
have no choice. They have
Yep.
to either eat it or move, and that won't happen to you as a homeowner.
Yep.
You're in control of your rate decision because it's locked for 30 years or whatever. Let's say you even have an arm. You're never going to have a situation where your home price, your home monthly mortgage just goes up 50%. It's just not possible.
100%. I agree. And I think there's two other pieces, and you touched on them briefly. I just want to drill down for a second, where a lot of people, and I have a conversation, is like, hey, if I'm going to buy a $500,000 house. If I put that $500,000 in the S&P, it's going to go up compounded 8% a year over year. And real estate's only going up 4% a year over year. And the point that you made, this blew me away once. I was at a conference, and there's two very smart people on the stage. One person was like, we were arguing about this, and then I realized I wasn't considering the leverage. I was like, how are you not considering the leverage? Because for a $500,000 property going up 4% a year, but you're only in for 125,000 or $100,000, 20 or 25% down, you're getting that return on that 20% or 25%, not on the whole
It's a huge
500,000.
difference.
We're talking about 4 to 5 times leverage on that four. You got to multiply that 4% by five times to get the true rate of return on the actual down payment. That's huge, and I think a lot of people, for some reason, have a block there. That's something that really needs to be understood properly to make an informed decision.
There's typically a discomfort with debt. When people hear debt, they just hear like a death sentence forever that you owe money forever. But if you know how to manage it and manipulate it, you can use it as a tool. So that's why
100%.
it works in real estate.
Yep. And the other point that you hit on that I want to drill down for a second on is, if you're going to save $2,000 a month, and if you're going to save your $100,000 down payment, if you care, if you're solving for like an overall long-term financial strategy that you're looking to optimize, are you reinvesting that money properly? Because if you are, I can make an argument, instead of buying $1 million house and taking $200,000 and putting it down and paying 7 grand for your carry versus five, if you're going to take that 200 and go buy property in, I don't know, right now Florida is soft, right? And there's opportunity there, or Arizona, or any place in the Midwest. There's all different options. If you're going to actually do that, then yes, we can actually model out something that could make sense to rent and take that. Or if you're going to dollar cost average the 2 grand savings into the S&P, but if you're just going to let your lifestyle absorb that, that's fine if that's your informed decision. But it's not actually the financially beneficial strategy long term. So I think a lot of like wishful thinking and like, oh no, the spread, I'll read. Like, you have to have a plan and actually execute with that money that you're not investing in your primary home to make that actually make sense and not just be, a good intention and actually a tangible thing that matters as well.
Well said.
Cool. All right, let's move on. Let's have some fun. I threw out to you guys. I don't know if you had time to think about what's a hot take. What's something that you're hearing in the market that may not be true, that you may disagree with? What's something you hear a lot of clients say, a lot of agents say? Something even, I don't care. There's too many burger places in Hoboken right now. Like, what's something that you hear that you disagree with, that you may be against the thread and the trend of? The stump, you
Mark,
guys?
Mark, you got it.
Okay. Um, let's see. Well, so there's an interesting thing happening in the with the bike lane in Hoboken at the moment. The city of Hoboken put in a protected bike lane, which for those of you that have not ridden bikes in New York City recently, they now have these protected bike lanes all over the place where the cars are parked here and then bike lane and then sidewalk. It makes a world of difference for biking. I'm a big biker myself. I use my bike for work and for recreation. And it just, you feel safer. You can ride a little faster, and it's a yeah, I'm a huge proponent. We saw in Paris in 2015, they did a similar thing where it was congestion, cars, just a total mess. Walking city, but the car part was not really working. So the mayor said, let's make it a bike friendly city. They did interconnected protected bike lanes. And lo and behold, 10 years later, when that system has been in place for a while, bikers are everywhere. And so it's happening in Hoboken, but the same kind of pushback that they saw in Paris is happening in Hoboken as well. They did the Grand Street bike lane, and there's a ton of bike lash, we're calling it, where people just are reticent to change. You can't double park anymore. It's harder loading and unloading. Like there's some drawbacks, but overall it's safer and it will get people out of their cars and onto bikes, which will be a good thing for the populace as a whole. So this is so I'm certainly in the camp that let's cut down our carbon footprint and let's keep moving in this direction that a lot of other cities have moved in. But it seems like the majority is in the other camp where they want to really roll back and just have bikes share the road with the cars.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting debate. Having kids in town, the protected bike lane seems like a no-brainer to me. I'm always very reticent to have, like, I'm always mapping out where we're going on bikes, and if there's not good sidewalks, if there's not wide streets, if there's not now protected bike lanes on that route, a lot of times I don't feel super comfortable with a 7-year-old riding a bike
Of course.
in an unprotected lane. So if the city's going to, and it is, and will continue, I believe, to trend towards a lot more younger families staying longer, a lot more, to and from sports and school and stuff like that. I think it is. There's probably a middle ground to find where you can grab a couple streets, make those protected bike lanes. You have to get out of them. It can't be everywhere, obviously, but I think I'm on that side of the camp where it's like find a balance where there's definitely some protected bike lanes, because otherwise it becomes a little bit of a free for all and Wild West being on bikes. And it affects our runners too, I think, Christian.
Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Jeff. But Mark, I'm glad you brought this up for a few reasons. But first off, my wife got like a Lyft promo for like $1 for like a 2-week thing where she can city bike as much as possible, which basically means I'm gonna city bike with her, right? And I've been doing these e-bike things around. They are amazing. Like they are amazing. I went to a showing on Google Maps. It was 25 minutes in the car, 35 minutes on the light rail, and 10 minutes on the bike. And that just shows you that like the town and the area is just built for this, right? They want you to move around quicker. Bike is the way to go. But with that being said, uh, for municipalities to grow, which is we have to. If we don't grow, we die, right? So Hoboken, Jersey City, all these other towns, they've dedicated to the city bike program, and if you even look at the numbers of these new high rises that are being built in Journal Square, let's say for example there's 1,000 apartments. They're only allowing 200 parking spots, but they have 200 city bikes like in the area because they want the majority of the population going to the bike. So this is something we have to get used to, and like I know that street on Grand is like a little bit uncomfortable at first, but it is what it is. Like out of the whatever 10 cross streets in Hoboken, if one has a dedicated bike lane, we'll live.
Yep, 100%. And here's a perfect segue to my hot take. I saw something, a post on Instagram or something like you could choose one of these things to bring back, and it was like one was like an old restaurant or something, and one of the options was Lime scooters. I want Lime scooters back, and as much as I love the city bikes, there's docking stations, and they're in, they're out. You can get one, you can't get one. Like there's nowhere to park it. You have to go to these designated areas. The days of the Lime scooters where you can leave it anywhere as long as it was like not in the middle of the street or about like there was like restrictions of how you need. I freaking love those things, and I know people had problems with it. Kids were getting on them and messing around and causing mayhem. People started throwing them in the river at one point because they were so fed up with like the bike lane and the scooter people zipping around. I thought there was more good than bad. I love those suckers because like I got to go 5 blocks, but I got to walk 3 blocks to my city bike and then another 2 blocks to dock it, and then I might as well just walk the damn thing. But if
Those were
5
early
blocks,
days. Yeah,
those were
early
great.
days.
I want them back. What do you guys think?
I think what happened there was, the saying, if you give someone an inch, they'll take a mile. Like, if
Yeah.
you give people, like, the flexibility to do whatever they want with those scooters, like, it's not going to be organized and all that. The other thing is, I think the firms that invested in those heavily, they got hit hard on them and they failed. You're not going to see much more investment come into those things. It's just, I think it's a failed industry.
That's sad to me.
Sorry about that.
Mark, what do you want? Would you, in a perfect
There's
world, you want
larger
brick?
economics at play. I agree. I agree with Christian. I think it's hard. It's a very capital intensive business, putting scooters all over and people not treating them like their own. Uh, and so that's what's going to make it hard for long term longevity. I think bikes just last longer; they're more durable. And then
True.
the other thing that I noticed, knowing some people that work at Hoboken Hospital and in the medical industry, they saw a large uptick in major scrapes, broken bones, even some knee stuff. It's you could ride a bike all day long and be okay, right? It's like it's safe enough, especially if you're not an aggressive rider. Scooters, you can just hit a pothole and get dumped over. So it's a that's my so I'm a little bit conflicted on this one because I do think it's a great mode of
Yeah.
transit, but I don't love the safety component.
That's true. And at one point when they first came out, they had very small wheels, and they were any little crack in the road would throw you. But then they got some bigger wheels that was a little more helpful. I just had so much fun on those damn things, but I don't think we're ever going to see them come back. Unfortunately, I think you guys are both probably on the winning side of history with your stances on this one. Cool. Anything else? Anything else fun we want to talk about, guys? Otherwise, we could shift into the last segment. Good to go.
Well,
Good
let
to
me
rock.
circle. I just want to circle back really quick and make one point on the. I like we talk about economics as it pertains to renting versus buying. I just like to always mention the quality of life component and how important that is. When you walk into a property and you can customize it and make it your own, it's a different feeling, and that it's almost that you don't know until you know, right? What's the saying? You don't know what you don't know, right? But
Right.
when you actually own something and you walk in and you're like, ooh, that backsplash is really not my jam anymore. You hire a contractor and tomorrow they come in and customize it with tile that you get to choose. There's something really special there, and I just would love for everyone to have that. I know it's a luxury and not all of us can afford it, but it's an important part of the equation.
I don't disagree with you. It's a little bit of an intangible. It's a little bit of a luxury for sure, but there is a peace of mind and the feeling that comes along with that. That's very valuable.
There's an example right here on my screen because we were renting this home. We just bought it, and I was able to paint this accent wall. So I couldn't do that until I owned the home.
That's a badass accent wall. I mean,
There you go. That's
Incredible.
exactly it. And how good does that feel? You get to walk in and be like, "Oh, this
It
is
was
my
awesome.
place. Like I did that."
yep,
Exactly.
yep. I love it. All right. So a new segment we're going to do. Christian's going to do the first one for us this week. We're going to start doing deals of the week. So we look at a lot of property. We come across a lot of different opportunities. We're always like running numbers for clients. And sometimes there's things that are sitting out there that are just like, this is an opportunity that's being overlooked. So Christian, I know you did a little bit of legwork, a little bit of homework. What do you got for us this week? What's something everyone should know about if you're looking for a deal?
Sure. So we always talk about the, let's say, the security of investing and purchasing in Hoboken. And this is a prime example of how, if you kind of take a little bit of a leap of faith, you can do quite well for yourself. A home sold this week on the 800 block of Park. It was a 3-bed, 2-bath, and it sold for, let me look at it here. It sold for 2.2, and that's not the headline. The headline is that this home sold in 2020 for 1.5. So if we run the math on that, that's a 6% appreciation per year over 6 years, which is absurd. Like if you look, I can't put into words how strong an investment that is if you're annually beating inflation by 2% and you're getting tax write-offs and whatnot. So this is a prime example of why this area is so desirable, and it's a safe investment to purchase here.
I totally agree. And I think the thing that we talked about earlier applies here where it's not just 6%. If you put 25% down, that's 24% on the money that you put down. So there's a massive, massive return on investment there. That's strong. So
Perfect.
there's opportunities like that out there. And you don't need hit it out of the park appreciation, even though 6% is already good by itself. It gets compounded and gets leveraged. So look for those opportunities if you're looking for some money to play, money to work. Hoboken still can return, even though it's a very prime A type market, there's still a lot of opportunity to the upside. And that's a prime example of it. So
Absolutely.
I love that, guys. So, all right, let's wrap it on up. We're heading into the end of summer. Any more fun summer plans for anybody? Anybody got anything on the bank?
I got the Poconos next week, which would be cool with the family.
Nice.
That's the beauty of living in this area. It's awesome. Like if you think about it, Mark's at the beach, you're at the beach.
Yeah.
I'm near the biggest city in the world. I'm going to the woods, which is an hour drive next week. Like I love it here.
Yep. Absolutely. That's us too. A little more beach time before school starts and back to reality and back to everything. But we're doing a little staycation this year at the beach, so we're excited for next week being a little bit more downtime.
Yeah, I can bring
Mark?
it to the most famous real estate anecdote on the planet, location, location, location. I mean, New York City is New York City, not just because of the amazing skyscrapers and the all that New York City has for humans, but it also happens to be in an incredible geographic location that was identified 250 years ago, and that's really kind of made it what it is today. I mean, the access to beaches, the access to mountains, and the climate. I mean, it's 80 degrees and sunny today. Like that's fine. If it was 110 degrees and sunny, I would be having a little problem out here. So I'm a huge proponent of our geography. I just think we lucked out. It's a great part of the world to live.
Absolutely. So, gentlemen, enjoy the rest of your week. Everyone, thanks for listening. If you have questions, if you're thinking of buying, you're thinking of selling, you're just thinking about, I don't even know what I should do. Should I be considering doing something? Is there a way to optimize my property? Is there a way to put some money to work? Reach out, click the link right below this, click the link in the comments, get in touch with one of us. We're happy to walk you through any scenario, any situation. No pressure, low pressure, like just here to help, here to provide some context and some guidance in any way we can. So, boys, always great hanging out. Thanks, everybody, for listening. See you guys next week.
See you next week.